A very happy morning, my dear students. I am glad we are meeting again in the second class of chapter 12, Plant Anatomy and Plant Physiology. Before entering into class, let me ask you to join with me to speak to God regularly, which is called as prayer. Regularly thank God for everything that He has given, for your physical structure, which is normal, which is good, for the life that is given regularly, for our dear parents, for our relatives, our neighbors, for all friends that He has given, for the good teachers that you are provided with, and with all the earthly materials that you are blessed with, starting from pen, pencil, food, and all kinds of earthly substances. Also, let us learn to ask pardon, ask sorry for all sorts of mistakes that you have done, some which are known and some which we actually don't know. Without our knowledge, we do enormous mistakes against parents, against friends, against yourself, and against God. So whoever you believe as God the Almighty, you just openly speak to Him, thank Him, praise Him, glorify Him, and ask sorry for not only for us, but also for all kinds of selfish deeds that are going around the world. If you ask sorry, apart from you being blessed for that, you will find a change in them, whoever who is against you or against nature or against God. So this is my experience. So I just want to share with you. So prayer can solve any sort of problems, but with faith. So keeping this in mind, regularly speak to God, and also spend some time to hear what God is replying. That is meditation. So meditate on His speech, meditate on His words, so that you can understand what He is trying to say us. Okay, so with this small provoke, let us enter into our class. I hope you are listening the online classes regularly. So even if you are not learning, which means that is also a mistake. I hope you understand. So whether you have interest or not, whether you understand or not, so you are to learn, you are to read regularly. If possible, you have to do some kind of a written test, maybe within your family. You can write a test and ask someone to correct. So that means you are getting ready for your future. At the same time, you are becoming slowly intelligent. To survive in this world, I would say, as per my experience, it's not that education alone makes you to survive. In the sense, that is, there are many who have enormous degrees in their hand, but still they are stupid. But still they are not ready to share with others their belongings or their wealth, especially to those who are suffering. You might have seen this on the roadside. Many beggars, when they ask, there are many who are not ready to just give the least amount that they have. So what is the use of this education? And you can find many literates or educated who doesn't obey traffic rules. I hope you understand. So like that we come across many selfish characters. So in that case, that education is useless. It becomes useless. So whatever you learn not only from the book, from the environment, from your parents, from God, from teachers, or from other elders or friends, it should be valuable. It should be fruitful to your life, which means you have to follow. If you are not following, if you are not obeying, if you are not practicing, so it's a mere waste. It's an utter waste in being educated. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, so because this is what happening in this world. So this education should make you a better human being. That is the fact. This education should have faithfulness inside you. If there is no faith in God, or if there is no confidence, or if there is no practicing of what you have learned, which means it's a mere waste. So that's what I'm trying to say. So why I'm saying this, because you come across many people who are not educated, but still they are decent, they are disciplined, self-disciplined, or they are hardworking, they are sincere, they are sharing what they have with others, at least the least that they could. But there are many who are educated in this world, whole world. I'm not talking about India, I'm talking about the whole world. But still they are not ready to be other-centered. More selfishness grows along with education, or along with intelligence or knowledge. So which is a mere waste. So which makes God to become angry upon us. He will be upset for creating us as human being. So which means there should be a change in us, whoever we are. I hope you can understand what I am trying to say. So keeping this in mind, try to follow what you are learning, especially what you are learning out of experience. So I don't know whether you can understand what is meant by experience. Okay, what you hear, what you see, what you feel, etc. put together are known as experience. It is not only learning from the book, reading from the book, also from various other sources. Okay, so keep this one part in your mind. So that is doing prayer and practicing what you learn or what you read, and also learn this obeying your parents. I hope you all know that we have not seen God, but there are some who have seen God in the form of a human being, especially our parents. So try to make them happy. So if you make them happy, which means their blessings, their happiness gives a positive energy, and that makes you to be intelligent, to be knowledgeable, and which gives you a happy life, happy future. I hope you understand. Okay, so let's go on to the class today. Last class we learned the intro of this lesson, plant anatomy and plant physiology, in which we learned the classification of tissue system by Sachs. There are many types of classification, and most probably you might have learned in 9th standard the tissues are classified into simple tissues, permanent tissues, vascular tissues, and that vascular tissue divided into xylem and phloem, and again that xylem classified into 4 types, and the phloem classified into 4 types. So these are all based on its structure and the function. Now what we are learning this year is, what we learned the last class is the classification of tissues, especially based on the arrangement. So we learned the classification of vascular system, vascular tissues based on its arrangement. That is classification of xylem and phloem based on its arrangement. Okay, you call that as vascular bundle. Okay, xylem, phloem together, their arrangement in a particular site of plants, we call it as vascular bundle. Okay, so this vascular tissues, they are classified into 3 types as radial, conjoint. So I am just refreshing what we have learned last period. Okay, Since you had a long gap, you might have forgotten. Just recall what you have learned. Radial, where the vascular tissues are not at the same radius. So xylem at a particular radius and phloem at a particular radius. That is known as radial. If they both are at the same radii, then it is known as conjoined. If they are found in concentric rings, one inside another, okay, then they are known as concentric. So radial, conjoint and concentric. Again, this conjoint classified into two types as collateral and bicollateral. Collateral, where you have just a xylem and phloem, but if you have two phloems above and below the xylem, then that kind of arrangement is known as bicollateral. Bi means two. So only one xylem, one phloem. That is known as collateral. If there are two, okay, phloems towards the periphery and towards the center of xylem, then that is known as bicollateral. Collateral classified again into two types as open and closed, based on the presence of cambium. In collateral, if the cambium is present, it is known as open type. If cambium is absent, it is known as closed type. It is known as open type because cambium initiates a secondary growth, and so it is known as open type. But here there is no growth, so it is known as closed type. And finally, this concentric vascular tissues, they are classified into two types as amphivasal and amphicribal. In case of amphivasal, where the xylem surrounds the phloem, you keep this as a clue, XP. So you know this window is XP, okay, xylem and phloem. So X comes then P, that is xylem surrounds the phloem. Actually the meaning of this is phloem towards the center, xylem towards the periphery. That is xylem surrounds the phloem, okay. And amphicribal, where reciprocal, okay, vice versa, where you come across a phloem surrounds the xylem. So you keep this as a clue. Just for amphivasal you have it. So that will, the amphicribal will be the vice versa reciprocal of amphivasal. Okay, so amphivasal, xylem surrounds phloem. Xylem first, then phloem. When you come from outside, that is, I am talking about the ground plan. Okay, ground plan of a root or a stem or a leaf. Okay, so when you come from outside, what will be first? Xylem. Then inside at the center you have phloem. Center means not exactly at the center, towards the center. Okay, so amphivasal and amphicribal. Again, based on the arrangement of the xylem, that is, we have two types of xylem, namely protoxylem and metaxylem. If protoxylem lies towards the center and metaxylem towards the periphery, that kind of arrangement is known as N dash. That is, protoxylem towards the center. N means inside, X means outside. If protoxylem towards the periphery and metaxylem towards the center, that kind of arrangement is known as X-arch. Okay, so be clear with what I am saying. We have X-arch and N-arch. First comes N-arch, then comes X-arch. Okay, N-arch, protoxylem at the center, metaxylem towards the periphery, and X-arch, metaxylem towards the center and protoxylem towards the periphery. So this is what we learned last class. Even though I think now it will be simpler for you if you have gone through the lesson and if you gone through the book. Before learning about root, stem, leaves, first of all you should be knowing what is meant by dicot and monocot. You are going to learn about dicot root, dicot stem, dicot leaf, etc. So first of all, let me start with this plant classification. I hope you have learned in 9th standard under this animal classification, where you have learned this 5 kingdom classification. All the living organisms found in this world are classified into 5 kingdoms, major type, known as kingdoms. I hope you could recall this hierarchy. Okay, kingdom, division or phylum, then class, order, family, genus, species. Okay, so I am just sticking on to this first major classification, 5 kingdoms. And do you know who classified this 5 kingdom classification? So he is none other than R.H. Whittaker, who classified all the living organisms in this world. It may be microorganism or green living organism or ungreen living organisms, that is plants and animals. He classified the whole into 5 as Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. Again I repeat, Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. I'm not going to, don't worry, I'm not going to discuss or explain these 5 kingdoms. But among these 5 kingdoms, we have this 4th kingdom, that is Plantae. Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So Plantae, which includes all plants. So when you look into this plant kingdom, which is classified into some few types as Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. Again I repeat, Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta, Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. Thallophyta, which includes bacteria and cyanobacteria, that is unicellular microorganisms, especially prokaryotes. Thallophyta. It is because this is known as Thallophyta because of the plant body. The plant body is known as thallus. There is no distinguished root, stem and leaf. For example, in bacteria, there is no root, no stem and no leaf. So we call them as Thallophyta. So phyta means a plant. The study of plant is known as phytology, from which you get the word phyte, Phyte. For example, you might have learned in lower classes hydrophytes, mesophytes and xerophytes. Hydrophytes, plants which live in abundant water. Mesophytes, plants which you find in garden or park, etc. So normal land surface. And xerophytes, plants which are found in dry areas or deserts. That is based on the water that is found in their habitat. So phyte, okay, so for that I am using that 3 types of plants, hydrophytes, mesophytes and xerophytes. Like that, here you come across Thallophyta. Okay, then Bryophyta, so where you come across leaf-like structures. So evoluted, slowly the Thallophyta evoluted into a better plant, that is with the leaf-like structures. Only leaf-like structures, leaf-like, not even leaf-like structures will be found, that is Bryophyta. Then Pteridophyta, where you come across first time presence of root, stem and leaves, and that is a specialty of Pteridophyta. And one more thing, like how we have amphibious animals, Bryophyta is amphibious plant which spends its lifetime both in water and land, and so they are known as amphibious plants. Okay, Thallophyta. Second one is Bryophyta, which is known as amphibious plants. Third one is Pteridophyta, which I said comprising of root, stem and leaves, but not fully developed. Okay, so they have root, stem and leaves that to stem under the ground, like how you come across potatoes, onion, ginger, turmeric, where the stem is found under the ground. So all these are modified stem. Like that in Pteridophyta, the stem is under the ground. Okay, like a rhizome. The next last 2, that is Gymnosperms and Angiosperms. So when you compare this Angiosperms with all other types, that is Thallophyta, Bryophyta, Pteridophyta and Gymnosperms, all these 4 types are non-flowering plants, whereas Angiosperms are flowering plants. Wherever you come across plants with the flowers, and they are none other than Angiosperms. Okay, now coming to Gymnosperms. Gymnosperms, they are known as cone bearing plants, because instead of flower they have male and female cones. That is, you might have learned in social science, coniferous forests, coniferous trees. They are named as coniferous maybe because of the cone shaped structure, but actually they are named as coniferous because of the presence of male and female cones. Like how we have male flower and female flower, you come across male cones and female cones instead of flower, and so they are known as coniferous trees. When you find abundant coniferous trees in a forest, they are known as coniferous forests. This is what known as learning. Okay, so step by step you are learning something. Maybe in lower classes you have learned about trees, then you learned forests, then you learned coniferous forests. Now you are learning what is meant by coniferous trees or coniferous forests. Okay, so always learn every aspect so that you will understand what you are learning in future. Okay, right. angiosperms. As I said before, they are flowering plants, and these angiosperms are classified into two types all flowering plants are classified into two types as dicotyledonnae and monocotyledonnae, which is shortly known as dicotyledon and monocotyledon. Still we can make it short as dicot and monocot. This classification of dicot and monocot is based on the cotyledons, that is a structure that is found in the seed. So it is not based on the seed, but based on the structure that is found in the seed. In case of dicot plants, the seeds comprise of two cotyledons. For example, all kinds of this nuts, for example cashew nut or groundnut, which is also known as peanut, or if you take all kinds of leguminous plants, I could say. Leguminous plants, or in other words I could say pulses. Okay, so based on the nutrition we use the word pulses, cereals and pulses. All pulses comes under dicot plants. Similarly, based on this agriculture, we use the word leguminous based on soil or based on agriculture. Based on soil fertility or based on agriculture, we call it as leguminous plants. So I think I don't want to go into that. So let us stick on to this dicot, where if two cotyledons are found, it is known as dicot plants. If only one cotyledon is found, it is known as monocot. For example, rice. If you look into rice, it doesn't, you don't have two structures. It's just one full structure, impact structure. Like that, if you take maize, each seed will be intact. Okay, so just one structure. Or wheat. So all this, cereals, you can call them as cereals. Examples like rice, wheat, maize, etc. So which are all known as cereals, they come under monocotyledons, where the seed comprises of just one intact structure. But in case of cashew nut or peanut or other kinds of nuts, or I can use the word pulses, or in other words I could say grams, many kinds of grams. So green gram, horse gram, Bengal gram. So where the cotyledon, you can find two cotyledons. It breaks into two. So not breaks, it comprises of two cotyledons. For example, peanut. If you take a peanut where you come across seed coat, if you remove the seed coat, it comprises of two compartments, and that's what we call it as cotyledons. Okay, so basically a seed comprises of four important factors. One is seed coat. The external covering is known as seed coat. Then inside you have cotyledon. Main use of cotyledon is it covers and protects the embryo. You have seed coat, then cotyledon, and inside the cotyledon you have the embryo and the endosperm. So endosperm is none other than the nutritive tissue for the growing embryo. This embryo actually germinates into root system and shoot system when you sow in the soil. Okay, right. So I am talking about this cotyledon. If there are two cotyledons, they are known as dicot plants. If there is only one cotyledon, it is known as monocot plants. And to analyze this, if I am giving you a task, go and check whether the certain plants, whether they are dicot or monocot. So first of all, what you have to do is that you have to find whether they are flowering plants, because only in flowering plants you have dicot and monocot. And second thing is that you don't need to wait till the seed is produced, because only based on the seed you say whether it is dicot or monocot. Apart from this seed or apart from this cotyledon, you can analyze or find a plant whether it is a dicot or a monocot based on leaf, and the second one is based on the root system. So if you uproot a plant, you have two types of root system. One is taproot system and other is fibrous root system. I hope you know what is taproot and what is fibrous root. If a plant contains taproot system, then that plant is dicot plant. If a plant is having fibrous root system, which means it is monocot plant. So apart from cotyledon, you can also check this based on the root system. Taproot system, it is dicot plant. If it is fibrous root system, it is a monocot plant. Then based on the venation, leaf venation. What is venation? The arrangement of veins in the leaf. I hope you know what is a leaf veins. If you just take a leaf, look in a light, you can find beautifully the veins arranged, which you call as leaf veins. Based on the venation, that is based on the arrangement of the veins, the leaves can be classified, or the venation can be classified into two types as parallel venation and reticulate venation. For example, if you take a plantain leaf, vaazha, okay, so where you come across the veins will be parallel to each other. I hope you all have eaten food or lunch in a plantain leaf. So the veins will be parallel. If the veins are parallel, then those kind of venation is known as parallel venation. Whereas in all other kinds of leaves, where the veins will not be parallel, and this is known as reticulate venation. So you have two types of venation, reticulate venation and parallel venation. If they are parallel, they are known as parallel venation. If they are not parallel, they are known as reticulate venation. In dicot plants, we have leaves with the reticulate venation. So by looking at the leaf, if they are reticulate, which means they are dicot plants, provided they should be flowering plant. And if parallel veins are found, then it is known as parallel venation, and the plant is known as monocot plant. Okay, one based on the cotyledon. Dicotyledons have two cotyledons. So keep this in mind. Don't write two seeds. It is two cotyledons. And monocot plants, they have one cotyledon. Second is based on the root system. If taproot system is found, it is dicot plant. If fibrous root system is found, it is known as monocot plant. The third one is based on the leaf venation. If there is parallel venation, it is a monocot plant. If it is reticulate venation, it is a dicot plant. And one more I could add with this, based on our topic, that is based on anatomy. That is, in dicot plants and monocot plants, that is in dicot stem and monocot stem, we have a difference. I mean anatomically, when you look a dicot stem under a microscope, you will find the vascular bundle arranged in the form of a ring, neatly arranged in the form of a ring. But in case of monocot plants, it is not arranged, it is scattered all over the cortex, all over the internal structure. So that is another difference which we can find with regard to dicot and monocot plants. And examples include dicot plants, as I said before, all kinds of pulses or all kinds of leguminous plants, or in other words I could say all kinds of grams, okay, nuts. So they come under dicot plants. And in monocot plants, examples which include plantain, coconut, grasses, etc. So where you simply you can say based on the venation. So in all these cases you will find parallel venation. If you just take a coconut leaf, you will find a parallel venation. Similarly, if you take a grass, or if you take a bamboo, or if you take a plantain leaf, you will find a parallel venation. So which means they are monocot, and other things are dicot plants. Before teaching about the various different types of dicot and monocot root, stem and leaves, let's have again a refreshed idea of what we have learned last class. That is, Sachs classifies the tissue systems into three types as dermal or epidermal, ground tissue system, and the third, vascular tissue system. To explain this, I have taken a sample or a ground plan of monocot root. When you look into a root or a stem or a leaf, whether it is dicot or monocot, the ground plan, that is the three types of tissue systems, will be almost the same. That is, you come across outer dermal or epidermal structure, which you call it as a dermal or epidermal tissue system. And second, you have inside ground tissue systems. And third, you have vascular tissue systems. Only the arrangements will differ, and also the presence or absence of certain tissues will differ. But basically, this is the overall idea which was beautifully explained by Sachs. Again I repeat, the tissue system comprises of external, that is outwards, dermal or epidermal tissue system, Then inside you have a ground plan or a ground tissue system. And third, you have internally vascular tissue system, which includes xylem and phloem. Okay, so this dermal or epidermal, which comprise of epidermis. So this line is known as epidermis, which may have stomata. That is, in case of leaves and stems, you have minute holes known as stomata, through which respiration and transpiration takes place. And you have epidermal outgrowths, so none other than root hairs. So this is what Sachs explained and what I explained in last class. Okay, so this is known as dermal or epidermal tissue system, which is found in all the types of parts of all kinds of plants. That is, which is found in dicot root, monocot root, dicot stem, monocot stem, and dicot leaf as well as monocot leaf. So this outer structure is known as dermal or epidermal tissue system. Okay, so this layer is actually known as epidermis, which comprises of minute holes known as on the layer known as stomata, and third, which comprises of epidermal outgrowths. Only in root system you don't have stomata. We have stomata both in the stem as well as in the leaf, both in the dicot as well as monocot. So this overall idea, I hope, will help you to understand the concepts inside. That's why I'm giving you this idea. From next class, I will be starting with the structures. The second, which is found inside this epidermis, is fully called as ground tissue system. So this ground tissue system comprises of cortex, endodermis, pericycle, and pith. So this vascular bundle inside is not standard for all types of tissue systems. It varies for each and every types of plants. That is, which varies for dicot and monocot, which varies for root, stem, and leaves. But this second layer is cortex. That's all. So that you have in mind. Not only cortex, you have this endodermis. So this covering of vascular bundle is known as endodermis. So again I repeat, this is not of the same structure. It differs. For example, I said in monocot stem, the vascular bundles are scattered in the ground tissue. So it is not at the center. So it varies. Okay, but still, what are all known as ground tissue system? One, cortex. The cells here are known as cortex. Second, you have endodermis, and apart from this, you have in some plants pericycle and pith. Pith is the structure that is found at the center. Okay, so all this comprise of ground tissue system, and your xylem and phloem, this is actually known as vascular tissues. So inside this epidermis, all that are inside the epidermis are known as ground tissue system, and third one is xylem and phloem. Together they are known as vascular tissue. I hope you understand now. Let me finish today's class with the last idea that I want to give. That is, first of all, have a difference in ideas about this ground plans of roots, stems, and leaves. So I'm just displaying the photos of ground plans of dicot root and monocot root first, followed by dicot stem and monocot stem, and finally dicot leaf and monocot leaf. So when you look into this dicot root and monocot root of a plant, you can understand the vascular bundles, the arrangements of vascular bundles. In dicot and monocot roots, the vascular bundles will be at the center. But if you look into the vascular bundle, the arrangement of vascular bundle in dicot root, it's like a cross. But in monocot root, it is like both the xylem and phloem, they are found attached to the endodermis. Okay, so I hope you can understand. Then with regard to dicot stem and monocot stem, as I said in the beginning of the class, in case of dicot stem, if you look into the ground plan of dicot stem, the vascular bundles are neatly arranged around the in the form of a circle. But in monocot stem, the vascular bundles are scattered everywhere in the ground tissue or in the cortex. So that makes the difference between dicot stem and monocot stem. And finally, when you look into this dicot and monocot leaf, the cortex comprises of parenchyma tissues in dicot leaf, which is classified into palisade and spongy parenchyma. The upper part of the leaf comprises of palisade parenchyma, which is columnar in shape, but spongy parenchyma, which are almost oval or round shaped structures, and they are irregularly arranged. But when you look into this monocot leaf, where you don't have two types of structures. Actually, these are known as mesophile tissues, where in monocot leaf, the mesophile tissues comprise of parenchyma cells, but they are not distinguished into spongy and palisade. So all the cells in this mesophile, they look similar, they appear similar. So that makes the difference between a dicot leaf and a monocot leaf. Can you understand? In dicot root, the xylem found in the vascular bundle is like a cross at the center of the vascular bundle. In monocot root, they are found attached to the endodermis. I think by this time you know what is meant by endodermis. In dicot stem, the overall ground plan shows that the vascular bundle are arranged in the form of a circle attached to the endodermis, whereas in monocot stem, the vascular bundles are scattered and they have a face-like structure. The vascular bundle appears like a face with the two eyes and a mouth. So this is just for our understanding, I am just telling. And finally, with regard to dicot leaf, you have two types of mesophile tissues. On the upper region, you have more amount of palisade parenchyma, and on the lower surface, you have spongy parenchyma with more intercellular space, with more space in between the cells. That is known as intercellular space. Whereas in monocot leaf, you don't have two types of tissues. Mesophile is not classified into palisade and spongy parenchyma. So this makes the difference, and this makes you easy to understand our next class. So very slowly I am going into concentrate and kindly read what has been taught so far. Okay, so your today's assignment is draw a tabular column to distinguish or differentiate the two types of plants, that is dicotyledonnae and monocotyledonnae. I hope you understand. So draw a tabular column, write the heading dicotyledonnae and monocotyledonnae. You can also write in short form as dicot and monocot, and write 4 points that differentiate dicot and monocot. That is based on cotyledon, second based on the venation, leaf venation, then third based on the root system, and fourth one is anatomically, especially with related to dicot stem and monocot stem, I said. So go through what I said in today's class and write these 4 points, and also add at least 3 to 4 examples for each. So this will be your assignment. So write in your science or biology notebook whatever you are having neatly. So plan properly. So whatever you are trying to do, plan it and then execute. Okay. Thank you. God bless you. Praise the Lord.